Thanks for tuning in to the Urban School Podcast. I'm back with more college football news. I really talk about college football on this podcast, but recently I've seen a player that stood out amongst the others, and uniquely, it's a offensive lineman. Most of the time we talk about the skill players, about the wideouts, the running backs, the quarterbacks, of course, even sometimes the defensive linemen who get to the quarterback. But rarely do we talk about the people who protect the quarterback and hold off these defensive players, elite players at that. But Alabama has a tackle, Kadyn Proctor, who is standing out amongst the rest. I mean, of course, he's 6'7", he's 336, 336 pounds. He lost a lot of weight. He's very athletic and mobile. And he's, this year's version of Trent Williams, so to speak. Um, the new age Larry Allen or the new age Orlando Pace. He has that type of ability just from his ability to do different things within the offense. And I believe he's more athletic than these guys, just of the way that they use him in their offense in Alabama. But to be that versatile, and be that agile at that size for offensive tackle is just phenomenal. It's rare that I want to see an offensive lineman play, but he is definitely one in that mold of those players that will be one of the next greats. Even if he's not even in the NFL yet, I can see a Hall of Fame career for him. And is he worthy of a top overall pick? Is what this discussion will be about. So when you think about how he's been utilized in the offense for Alabama through that Kalen DeBoer's offense, they've used him as a back in the backfield, running damn near touchdowns in the backfield, lined up at fullback. They've used him on a screen where he almost scored a touchdown. Of course, he's pulling throughout running plays and things like that. So he's used every type of way you can think of offensive line, and plus more that can be used in an offense. So, and I believe if he lose a little bit more weight, he could probably slot to tight end eventually. But his blocking skills are phenomenal. But do you think he's worthy of a top overall pick? Because we really haven't seen that. I remember growing up as a kid, there was a guy by the name of Robert Gallery who was drafted pretty high in the draft, and I was wondering, like, why would you draft a lineman that high? Well, I guess if you have the chips on the table and you have the necessary or requisite pieces that you need, i.e., a quarterback, running back, wide out, maybe even a tight end already, I can see that you could draft the offensive line now because of how important that position is. And watching, movies like Blind Side and just listen to offensive linemen talk about the whole debacle between back when Lawrence Taylor played and how important it was to being able to block him or at least fend him off for a few seconds so your quarterback can get off a pass or even for your running back to get out of the backfield. I understand how important that is to actually have that position covered, especially at the left tackle spot, which is the spot where he is. So, but is he worthy of a top 10 or a top overall pick? Now, you have to look at the team's needs, of course, because they're not just drafting offensive linemen just because they need one when they need a quarterback and they need a defensive tackle and they need pieces like that. So right now, teams like the Saints, if the Saints had the number one pick, they probably wouldn't draft Proctor number one because they do need a quarterback. That's first off, and that's probably the most important. Well, it's considered the most important position in football. So they probably wouldn't draft him because they need that. They could possibly need a running back because Kamara's out the door. The other running backs really haven't proven themselves or got enough reps yet. They have pretty much the receiver position covered. So yeah, I don't think they would. Now, if the Titans had the number one pick, I think they could possibly pick him because they have a young quarterback in Cam Ward who they're still not out on yet, and he's still trying to prove himself. It's a slow burn, and they're in Nashville, but they still have a little confidence in him and still want to see where it goes. So possibly they could pick him. But teams like the Jets, who's been losing pretty bad, and it's in that running in contention for that number one spot. They probably won't pick him either because we know Justin Fields is not the answer. They have a good running back. They have some pieces at wide receiver. So I don't think they would pick him either. But I do believe undoubtedly Caden Foster would be definitely a top 10 pick just for the simple fact of his talent alone. And somebody's going to have in that top 10 spot, somebody's going to have a quarterback that just fell down their luck, i.e., Baltimore Ravens. Without Lamar Jackson this year, they've struggled a lot. So I can see them being somewhere making the top 10 pick and picking Caden Proctor, which would turn their fortunes around all the way. I believe to pair them with what they already have, and they already have an elite team. They just had the injury bug hit Lamar Jackson this year, especially with a hamstring. So I do think they would pick him. But it's just amazing to see what Caden Proctor has done as an offensive lineman, especially with a school that produces a lot of offensive linemen, but he stands out from the rest from the previous that they've had. But Alabama's usually a skilled team that has players like a Derrick Henry, a Mark Ingram, even a Tua Tagovailoa, Devontae Smith, Julio Jones. These Alabama's known for the athletic guy, especially on that offensive side, and they have a lot of athletic defensive players as well. They had just as many defensive players get drafted as offensive players, so it's it's amazing to see, and I'm interested to see where he goes and what his career looks like because I think if he keeps on his trajectory, he will be one of the greatest offensive linemen in history. But I do think he's worthy of a top pick, a top 10 pick, but I'm not sure yet of a top overall pick just because of needs of those of those teams that need quarterbacks. But as always, thank you for tuning into the Urban Scope podcast. Until next time, I'll see you next time.